You know, it's a definite possibility that Donald Trump could end up being the Republican nominee. And New York Times broke down some of the people who are putting him there. And they cite data that found that nearly 20% of Trump voters disagreed with Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the slaves, and 17% weren't sure.
They're not sure. Yeah.
No, was this in the context of they weren't sure of making an executive action or an executive order? Was it in that?
Because when I really read into this, the way the poll was conducted was dishonest, because they were talking, the questions before were talking about executive orders or executive actions, saying, do you believe in them? Would you want them? And then it followed up with, well, and it listed a whole bunch of things that included slavery. Well, the people that don't believe in executive orders were saying no, or executive action, and then it followed up, and slavery was just mixed in there, so they thought they were really being asked about it. But it was dishonest. It was tricky in the way it was worded.
But they also said a third of Trump's and Cruz's backers believe that Japanese internment during World War II was a good idea. Yeah. They asked a lot of different questions.
How do they feel about feeding Christians to the lions? That's okay.
I may be in the lion's den some days, Joy.
I think we all feel it, but I think one of the polls also was conducted by the public policy polling, which does align with Democrats, and people have thought that they've been biased, you know, in the past. But I think a lot of people are asking themselves, do we want a politician who has no business acumen, or do we want a businessman and we can settle with very little foreign, but has no foreign policy experience?
Yeah.
But you know, he picked up a couple of endorsements yesterday.
Before you do that, I want to talk about this poll.
I think
because it's you know, it's meaningful. And it talks, you know, yesterday he talked about how glad he was to talk to the undereducated folks. And it kind of bothers me, you know, that this is what he's saying is a good thing. And maybe it was tricky, maybe it was done by folks, but it doesn't change the fact that these seem to be going along with the kind of rhetoric that we've heard about black people and immigrants.
Well, you had people enslaved, right? Okay, we fought a war over that. The North won the war, so it wasn't just executive action. It was also a war to free slavery, to eliminate slavery. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So these people don't know what they're talking about.
Right, but I want you to know from my opinion, I can't wrap my mind around this. I can't believe that there are people that would still think that that's okay. So let me make that clear. I'm not trying to defend Donald Trump, but I was just talking about the poll. I don't get it.
What about the 17% that have no clue? They're like, they're undecided.
That freaked me out.
Are you undecided?
So that's 39%, and the rest of them think Lincoln was a car.
That's my point. I think it was a tricky poll. I think people really didn't understand what they were being asked. That's what my point is.
I mean, it tapped into some ignorance in our society. Let's just admit that there are some ignorant people out there.
It's freaky.
Yeah,
it just kind of freaked me out. But you found that voters...
it's not ignorant. It's not ignorant. It's racist. Let's get this clear.
Ignorance and prejudice.
Okay.
Let's put them together.
Well, they generally run hand in hand.
Not always.
But to those of us who see it and who live it every day, it's pretty much, it runs just like this. You cannot separate them. Because in this world now, you can't pretend that we should be enslaved, or that we don't matter, or that Mexican folks shouldn't be here. This is still, I mean, this is
talking about racism. You don't have to be stupid to be a racist. There are plenty of smart people who are racist. Look at what they did to President Obama for the past 8 years.
I mean, racism itself is ignorant. Racism itself as a thing is just ignorance to begin with.
Yes.
But you can be a very highly educated person.
You can be very smart and still be ignorant.
And be a bigot.
I know quite a few of those people. But anyway, you found that more voters who opened up to talk. Help me.
Yeah, so people are anonymously sharing their thoughts on the election on this blog, and they're called Election Confessions, that I found really amusing.
Election Confessions?
Yes. Yes. So one person said, I only vote so I can post a selfie with the I voted sticker. I don't even know the name of all the candidates. Or, I never understood how Hitler rose to power until this year watching Trump. And then one person that I always vote, but in reality, I never voted. I don't even know where my polling place is.
That happens sometimes.
So
there's
what
also
are your election confessions?
There was also one other one that says, I don't like him, but I don't think that Trump will do the worst job as president. When we first said Trump, there was somebody in the audience who started clapping.
There's a few people.
And her friend was like, don't do that. So I feel like the Trump supporters that I've spoken with, they're almost saying that they're going to vote for somebody else because
they're embarrassed?
I don't know if they're embarrassed, but they don't want to admit to it.
Well, I think they don't want to be painted with the bigotry.
That's right.
Ignorant sign. I think,
That's right.
you know, because so many things that he's said have rubbed people the wrong way. And probably not a whole bunch of people if we believe everything that we read, but I think a lot of people just have to really think about what it is they're supporting when they say they support him, because he's very tricky, I think.
He picked up a couple of key congressional endorsements yesterday, and one of them said he has the guts and the fortitude to return our nation's jobs stolen by China. The other, Representative Duncan Hunter said, we don't need a policy wonk as president, we need a leader as president. So that was Representative Duncan Hunter from California and Chris Collins from New York.
Here's what's interesting. China didn't steal our jobs. We took them over there.
Yeah.
We took them. They didn't come in the night and go, come here, come here, come here. We said, hey, we don't want to pay a normal wage. Come on, let's take our stuff over there. This was not, you know, nobody snatched anything that we didn't give willingly. We gave our stuff away.